I think they're supporting me, as they are supporting me in putting up yard signs, wearing stickers, putting up signs in their yards, because they believe in our cause.
Mr. Portman?
Which is to turn around Ohio.
Our next question comes from Steve Hoffman, and it goes to Mr. Portman for a 2-minute answer.
Mr. Portman, your campaign has focused rather relentlessly on job losses in Ohio during Mr. Fisher's tenure as development director. These occurred while the nation as a whole was shedding some 8 million jobs. What would you have done differently in Ohio had you been development director? And are you arguing that Ohio could have gained jobs in the current recession?
Well, Steve, you're exactly right. This campaign is about jobs, not just about the 400,000 jobs that have been lost in the last 4 years while our unemployment has nearly doubled, but about how we get jobs back. And if you look at our jobs plan, check it out, Steve. I know you've memorized it, but it's at robportman.com if you haven't looked at it. Look at our energy plan, look at our health care plans. We have specific ideas to turn things around in Ohio. And again, this is in contrast to what you're hearing from my opponent, what you've heard today, what you'll hear in this campaign, which is constant attacks. Again, I think he wants to distract us from the central issue. What would I have done differently? A lot of things, including visiting some of those 70 plants that I talked about earlier that I've visited during the last 20 months of this campaign. I mean, I've gone to places that have lost jobs and found out that Lieutenant Governor Fisher was never there. A big one would be DHL in Wilmington, Ohio. 8,000 jobs lost. And at least according to the workers I've talked to there, Lieutenant Governor Fisher never showed up as development director. So the first thing you do is show up. Second thing you do is you run a Department of Development that's actually effective. Governor Strickland said just last week, after a Toledo Blade series of articles about how we keep losing jobs to other states, specifically 4 companies have left during this campaign, the Toledo area, to go to Indiana. And the mayor of one of these towns, who's an independent voter, said, you know, our Ohio Department of Development was asleep at the switch. They were too slow, too inefficient. Guess what Governor Strickland said last week? He agrees. He thinks the Ohio Department of Development has been too slow and too inefficient, has not been effective at competing with other states. Look, in the last 4 years, of the jobs that have left Ohio, 9 out of 10 have gone to other states. Think about that. So, you know, yeah, there's plenty that I would have done differently. But we are where we are. So what do we do now? To me, that's the more central question. Do we continue to put more burdens and taxes and costs on business? Or do we do what those small business owners told me yesterday in Cleveland? Give us a break. Have the government help us rather than hurt us to create jobs.
Mr. Fisher, you have 1 minute for response.
While Congressman Portman was in D.C. and lobbying and practicing law, here's what I was doing. We wrote Ohio's first ever economic development strategic plan, never been done before in Ohio. Despite the fact that there are too many people in this state for whom unemployment is not 10%, it's 100%. What they want are people who work day and night 24/7 in the middle of an economic storm, knowing full well that the people working didn't cause the storm. The top economic development award in the nation is given by Site Selection magazine. It goes to the state that attracts the most new jobs and the most private capital investment of $1 million or more. No surprise, California has won it, Texas has won it, Alabama. It's harder for a manufacturing state to win it. 2007, the first year of our administration, we won it, #1. 2008, in the second year of our administration.
Mr. Fisher?
In the middle of the recession, I'm almost done, Karen. We won it.
Time.
And guess what, Karen? The third year we won it too, 3 years in a row.
Thank you. Joe Froelich has the next question, and it goes to Mr. Fisher for a 2-minute response.
Mr. Fisher, like many Democrats, you accuse your opponent of supporting a tax break that encourages companies to ship or create jobs overseas. You even raised it in your opening remarks today. Do you support the recent effort by Senate Democrats to end this income deferral provision, even though many corporate leaders here in Ohio say it would actually lead to the loss of more American jobs?
Yes, I do. And let me tell you why. We need to use our tax code to incentivize the creation of jobs in America and in Ohio. Any company should have the right to do business anywhere around the world, and they do. But when you use the precious tax code of the United States of America, you use it as an incentive to create jobs here. We have today, Joe, a trade deficit of about $800 billion when George Bush left office. You know what that means? That means that for every $1 we export to other countries, they are selling us $8. Not a fair deal. It's why everywhere you go today, if you go shopping, it's going to say made in China. It's why there are hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs, 5 million since 2001, who have left America. Let's make it very clear. In its place, we should have a national job creation tax credit that says to a business, you want to create a job here, we're going to give you a tax credit, exactly what we've done here in Ohio, but there isn't anything on the national level. Our priorities are upside down and inside out. I want to see the words again, made in America, and I'm running against the person who was one of the chief architects as George Bush's trade advisor, who advocated for those tax breaks and negotiated the trade agreements that allowed countries like China to dump $8 of cheap, unsafe goods into America for every $1 we exported them. Now let's make it very clear, exporting goods is a good thing. We should export more, not less. But the bottom line is we should be selling more, buying less, consuming less, saving more, producing more. And you do that when you have fair and balanced trade, as opposed to unfettered, unregulated trade. And that is, in many ways, the big difference between us on this important issue.
Mr. Portman, you have 1 minute for response.
Well, you've just seen a critical difference between us. Lieutenant Governor Lee Fisher wants to raise taxes on U.S. companies. And he wants to do it, as you say, even though Ohio business leaders say it's a bad idea. Let me tell you what he wants to do. He wants to have a great soundbite politically, which he's used again, as you said in his opening, and uses constantly in the campaign. It's all about partisanship. And he wants to have 17,000 Ohioans out of work, because that's how many Ohioans will lose their job if that tax increase is put in place. U.S. corporations are selling stuff all over the world, and we want them to do that. That creates jobs here. They have the highest tax rate in the world, by the way, except for one country, Japan, which is lowering theirs. And he wants to raise their taxes. So it may be a good soundbite, it may be good politics. It's terrible for Ohio workers. 17,000 jobs. It's companies like Eaton here, companies like Parker Hannifin. And you know what? More importantly, it's the hundreds of suppliers to those companies who are going to lose jobs right here in Northeast Ohio because of a good political soundbite. We can't do this. We can't continue to raise taxes and burdens on American jobs.
Next question. Bill Hershey asks the question to Mr. Portman with a 2-minute answer.
Mr. Portman, your campaign has benefited from TV ads sponsored by American Crossroads, a group with ties to Karl Rove and a former Republican national chairman. Do you think such groups should be required to disclose the sources of their money?
First of all, there are independent expenditures in Ohio, both for Lieutenant Governor Lee Fisher and for myself. We can't be involved with them at all. He can't be involved. I saw a direct mail piece the other day critical of me that was put out by an independent group supporting him, and I'm not assuming that he was involved in it because his campaign can't be, just like our campaign can't be involved with any of these independent expenditures and shouldn't be. Instead, what I'm doing is talking about what my vision is to turn Ohio around and move Ohio forward. And that's what you see in my ads. We focus on jobs. We stick to the facts. We talk about a positive, proactive vision. We encourage people to go to the website and learn more about the Portman Plan for Jobs, our 10-point energy plan. That's the focus of our campaign and will continue to be. These other groups may come in and out. We can't stop them, but that's not going to be what the focus of our campaign will be about. It's going to stick to exactly what I've talked about today, which is how do we take this situation in Ohio? 400,000 jobs lost, continued job loss, even last month. Unemployment going up. We saw the numbers today. The national unemployment numbers show that we lost 94,000 jobs in America last month. Now, this is not turning around. We need something new. We need a fresh approach. The status quo is not working. We need to turn things around in Washington because Washington is putting out more and more job-killing legislation and exploding the deficit and debt, which is not helping to create opportunity here in Ohio. This is going to be the difference in this campaign. This will be played out in our ads. Lieutenant Governor Fisher has his own ads. His ads are on the attack. His ads talk about the issue Joe Froelich raised, which is an issue that may be good politics, but it's terrible economics for Ohio. His ads misstate a number of things because he's interested, again, in the partisanship and playing politics with this race. We're going to keep focusing on how to get Ohio back on track, how to get people working together to turn things around.